just talking about Anthony Edwards in such a great light that it was a good moment. But we do need to talk a little bit about the Warriors because you know what? We all started to believe in it. But then the Steph Curry injury happened, and unfortunately for anybody, that is just too much to overcome. Look, they're in the business of winning championships. They're a team that we're always going to look at that way. Chandler, can you still make this season seem as though it was successful to a point? Like, how would you describe what they've just done?
Yeah, I think it was a huge success. You go and get a Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline. You have an unfortunate injury with Steph Curry where this series kind of shifted immediately when that happened. You kind of knew that they were doomed when that happened, but listen, they got better at the deadline. They extend Jimmy Butler for 2 years. They have assets to continue to get better. They do have a huge decision to make here on Jonathan Kuminga because he was one of the assets they wanted to hold on to, but then they didn't play him. And so not that they devalued him, I think he's kind of brought that back up and kind of answered all those questions, whether he can play or he can be that guy that a team's going to go and throw a huge contract at in restricted free agency this summer. But they definitely are there. They have the pieces. They have Steph Curry coming back, who just came off a great year. This hamstring, he's going to have a full offseason. It's not like he's going to have to require surgery. It's not like he's going to miss that much time. Obviously, they're getting a year older, him, Draymond, Jimmy, but you tweak a few things. You go and sign and trade a Kuminga and bring on something more because I can't imagine they bring Kuminga back. It wouldn't make sense. They barely played him when it mattered.
But he was so good in the playoffs when they did play him. I guess that was to try out for everyone else.
I think that was a great audition for somebody else.
Good audition.
And that's because Steph Curry was out. Clearly, like at the end of the season, those games that mattered, they didn't play him. He has no business going back there, but he's valuable and they can do a sign and trade and better that roster and come back with championship hopes next season.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. I think that was a great audition for another team that showed that he can be exactly who you think he is. He's a very talented player, a young guy. You'll put a package together for him and give him an opportunity to go somewhere where he's going to thrive, and he can be one of the options of somebody where a team can rely on you, not when just a guy goes out and get injured. So obviously there's something going on there that the style of play just doesn't mix and it doesn't match with what Golden State is trying to build. And so he'll be fine regardless. You know, as far as the Golden State Warriors go, I expect them to be active in the market this summertime. You know, Jonathan Kuminga, I think, is going to be number one on that list of things that they got to get situated. Obviously, they're going to try to put more pieces around aging Jimmy and aging Steph Curry. But other than that, they're always going to try to compete for championships. But I think this is a successful season. These guys were dead before Jimmy Butler came along. They were dead in the water. They were trying to figure out where to next. He stabilized this team. They went 18-2 with him in the regular season. They were able to get a deep run in the playoffs until they got bit by the injury bug. So this is a team that feels like they can still compete at a high level, still compete with some of these young guns in the league and how some of these teams are building. But they do know they got a lot of areas that they need to address, and I'm sure they'll do it in this summer. So
yeah, and when you talk about Jonathan Kuminga too, it's clearly Steve Kerr isn't like a fan, right? And I understand from a basketball standpoint, the Warriors is a product. It's an offensive system where it's high IQ, it's movement, it's next pass, it's constant flow and motion. That's not necessarily Jonathan Kuminga's game, which is okay. Like he's going to go to a Brooklyn, he's going to go to one of these other teams where he can kind of expand his game, play through him, not have to play in this movement kind of structured Steve Kerr offense. I get that. It's not necessarily a fit. But that being said, Jonathan Kuminga is still a stud. He's still so young. He's still super valuable. And he showed that in this series that what a professional. Like I would have been so pissed and I would have, it's hard not to hang your head in a situation like that where you literally average 15 all season long. You're the third leading scorer on your team and they go and trade for a guy very similar to you, Jimmy Butler, and you just go to the doghouse. Like he showed me so much in that series just to stay ready, stay professional. And I hope he gets a huge payday. And I do hope it's somewhere else, but I think the best thing the Warriors could do is a sign and trade. So at least they can get something for that asset, not just lose them for nothing.
I mean, he led the team with scoring since Steph went out. I don't want it to be one of those things where there's a couple that's always fighting and then they have one good week and they're like, let's give it another shot. Like, are we all on the same page that we want Kuminga to go somewhere else, even though he had a great several games? Like it's right. Okay, good. Because I kind of want to see what he does somewhere else, despite all that. Okay, Jimmy Butler. I find this something that we don't talk about enough in sports. We give nicknames to people all the time, but do we ever take them back? And I ask that because he only took 11 shots, guys. His plus minus on this team was the worst. He has the playoff Jimmy nickname, Are we keeping it? Do we put it on hold? How do we deal with that, Lou? I've never dealt with this before.
Listen, one thing about nicknames, we gotta allow some of these guys that we really just gotta allow some of these guys to get older. Like, I'm not making an excuse and saying that Jimmy Butler is done, this and that, but guys get to a certain place in their careers where they're at the crossroads where your mind is telling you to go, 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 and your body is telling you something different, and you're just not putting out what you're used to putting out. You're not playing the game how you're used to playing it. I remember dealing with it at the end of my career, and I wasn't a Jimmy Butler. I wasn't the star of a basketball team, but I know at 35, 36, I was getting ready for games. I was revved up, and I would get in games, and some of the things that would come natural to me, teams were just cutting it off, and it wasn't there anymore. And then you have to start making adjustments. For Jimmy to have so much success in the paint, getting to the rim, still getting to the free throw line, those things are intact. Those are his intangibles. Now, where does he evolve his game from there? Can he bully guys when going into being 36, 37 years old? Can he still bully? Does he add a more consistent three-pointer? Does he add a more consistent mid-range? He's going to have to find some different pieces to put in his bag and evolve. So playoff Jimmy will look different. Supersonics and Milwaukee Bucks Ray Allen, he looked different than the Boston Celtics Ray Allen. He looked different than the Miami Heat Ray Allen, but he still found ways to contribute. His game was completely different. He still was a star in his role, but it looked different. I think Jimmy and some of these guys, they're at the crossroads now where they just got to figure out what's the next level, what's the place for them in their careers, being at that age. So he could still be playoff Jimmy. It's just probably going to look different in the future.
Yeah, and Jimmy Butler's great. Jimmy Butler was really good with Steph Curry, and that with that offense and the way that he would get switches and he would go and punish smaller guards in the post and the way that offense ran with those two guys in, Jimmy had a lot of success early. You look at the last two games. I'm not a huge plus minus guy, but minus 47 the last two games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not what I would expect from a Jimmy Butler kind of as the guy in the playoff clinching series games. That's not what I expect. And we harped on him shooting 9 shots last game. He only took 11 shots this game. So again, I think when he's the focal point clearly of a defense and you have a Jade McDaniels, you have a tough physical defending team like Minnesota making it hard for him. It's harder without Steph Curry on the floor. Everything comes easy with all that attention that the best shooter of all time creates just from being on the floor. Even if he's not even making shots, even if he's not even taking shots, the defense is tailored to stop Steph Curry, which makes everything easier for Draymond Green, everything easier for Jimmy Butler. It opens up the whole floor for everybody. So I think that has something to do with it as well, just the Steph Curry effect without and that attention and stuff. But Jimmy Butler is still good enough to be that guy. It's just for whatever reason, I don't know if he's banged up or what, but like he just didn't, again, 11 shots, it's not enough for me. It's not enough. Season on the line, it's not enough for with Steph Curry out, Jimmy Butler taking 11 shots. So I think they're fine. Again, I think the Kuminga asset, the Pods, the Moody, they still have pieces where they can better this roster and go into next season with championship hopes. But those teams in the West, we look at 3-8 this year, they're not going anywhere. And the Spurs just got better. The Mavs just got better. The Lakers are going to continue to get better. The Rocket, like there are so many good teams in the Western Conference that it's you got to do something, or you're just going to get lost in the sauce.
Okay, so let's stay there, right? Because obviously the Jimmy Butler trade was awesome, but now they've had sort of it's almost fortunate, but it's unfortunate because now you know what you are without Steph. Because Steph could get hurt, and then what? Supporting cast is just not quite enough. Chandler, put on your GM hat. What would they need to do to sort of stay relevant in the West?
I think you sign and trade Kuminga. I don't think he fits Steve Kerr. I don't think Steve Kerr wants him there. He clearly shows him with all the coaches' decisions, the DMPs. He's not a part of their future, but he understands his value and that other teams like him. So I think you start off with a sign and trade, and I don't know what that number would be. I think he deserves north of $20 million a year. I think he is that good, that young. And I think a team will bite the bait on him. So do that. Sign him, get him a good deal, and bring back a valuable 2 or 3 starters, which I think you can get for a Jonathan Kuminga type player. Throw in a Trace Jackson, throw in one of these other younger guys that have value as well. And I think you can kind of build out this roster with more shooting. Buddy Hield was great. He showed flashes throughout the playoffs, throughout the series. I love a guy like that. You got to expect Steph Curry, again, he's going to be 36, 37 years old next year. He's going to miss time. So they can add a lot. They got surprising product from Quentin Post this year. It's kind of the first time we've had a stretch five. I think he will be value for them, which makes kind of Looney and Trace Jackson, those guys, the odd man out. So they are deep. They have assets, and they have a lot of ways to shuffle this roster to get better while keeping Jimmy Butler, obviously, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry.
Oh, yes, he's got to keep. By the way, the Steph Curry of it all, yeah, everyone's getting older. We get all that. But he basically averaged 25, 6, and 4 and shot almost 40% from three, Lou. And I, yeah, things will start to drop off slowly, I'm sure. But he's still playing like a top 10 player in the league, no?
Yeah, Steph Curry is going to be Steph Curry. I think we're going to witness Steph Curry in the same way that we possibly can see a LeBron go deep into his late 30s and still have success. I think the version of that changes. Like, think about how many screens that he runs off, how he's able to get open for a lot of these shots. Teams that start adjusting. And for that, we start seeing, this was the first time that we start having a fatigue conversation around Steph Curry. And then what happens? He has a fatigue-style injury in a hamstring. So again, I'm talking about Jimmy Butler being able to evolve at this stage in their career. Steph Curry is going to find that version of evolution as well. He's not going to run off as many screens. He's not going to do all of these things going into his late 30s, going into his 40s, if he has the desire to play that long. But again, somebody that's so ball dominant when he has the ball, that can play off the ball, he can do every single thing that you can imagine, but he has a lot of success when he plays off the basketball. Now, what does that version look like in the future? We'll see, but he's always been a mastermind and a craftsman when it comes to basketball. He's going to make his adjustments in this summer, and I expect him to still be a top 10 player in the league, just as he has been in the past decade or so in this league, but I think the version that we are used to seeing of Steph Curry, we'll see a new and improved version, and he'll still make his adjustments, and he'll still be Steph Curry.
Yeah, it's a shooter's league, and this is the greatest shooter of all time we're talking about. That shot is not
shooting is at a premium.
Yeah, that shot's just not going to get broke out of nowhere. He is going to shoot at a high clip, over 40%. For however long he plays. I don't care how healthy he is. I don't care if he's 70, 80%. He is still going to have value in the league. Top 10, top 15, top 20, who knows? Right now, yeah. And what's crazy is, remember All-Star Week and the voting came around? There was a chance that maybe he didn't get a vote or start. If he didn't get a starter, he wasn't going to make the team. And he's continued to get better throughout the year. He's the one guy that goes on the road, and it's basically a home game. Like, he's picturing that Orlando game where he turned that arena basically into the Chase Center, like on his own. Like, there's nobody like him. He's the most loved player, I think, in the NBA, and he's going to continue to have value just the way he can shoot the ball. And he's just got to find ways to stay healthy. This injury to me is like an old, like Lou, this is like an old head injury. This is like you tweaked your hammy, this is what the things he's going to have to start dealing with now. You know what I mean? Like, but he's going to be just fine.
Hammies suck. More collagen. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We do have a lot more Run It Back to get to. We also have another game that happened last night, and I don't get a watch because of it. We'll be right back.